What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another video here on the Combat and Canvas YouTube channel. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe before we get into all things combat. And today we have a UFC video. We're covering some UFC. I'm Brady. This is Max. Today we're going to be going over an interesting, I guess you could say, stipulation that's been brought upon the MMA world, specifically between Colby Covington and Garry. Man, these two have been going back and forth actually a little bit of a while now.
Yeah, since that press conference.
Yeah, it started at the what was the event? It was
I think it was 296, I think. Edwards and Covington.
Yeah, Ian was supposed to be on, wasn't.
Yeah, that was when he got sick versus Neil.
Yeah, he got sick, and then they were like, Colby was saying basically he wasn't sick, he was just scared to be on the press conference with him.
Yeah.
And yada. But I guess technically, if you want to go back a little further, this all really started with these people making fun of Garry and his wife. Yeah. That's really where everything started, the downfall for Garry.
Yep.
So then when this press conference happened, well, it didn't happen for Ian, but for Colby, he was like, oh, feeding into the wife stuff and you're a cuck, and then it just blew up a little bit.
Yeah, man. That was I just couldn't believe whenever Garry pulled out. I know he released those pictures, but I still think that was a little suspicious. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, but hey, I'm glad that they were able. I'm glad he was actually able to fight Neil eventually. He got the win there, and now they could potentially fight each other, Colby and Garry. So I honestly think this is the perfect matchup to make at this stage in their career. Colby needs a win. Ian wants to get that top contender, and they have history. They both talk shit about each other. They recently been going back and forth, so it's getting more and more more and more likely.
So basically, the actual fight talk started after Garry beat Jeff Neal, and then they asked him on the post-fight press conference basically who's next or whatever, and he was like, I would like to fight Colby, and not only would I like to fight Colby, I'd like to retire Colby. I'd like to be his send-off.
Yep.
Well, that was what? At this point, a month ago?
Yeah.
And Colby Covington finally said something.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a look at that right now, because Colby Covington dropped a video on Instagram and then eventually put it all over his social media. And here's the video if you have not seen it.
Greetings, nerds and virgins. It's America's champ, the people's champ, Donald Trump's favorite fighter. We're in beautiful, sunny South Florida.
I don't even know what that.
They work 60 years just to get a taste of the good life. This is what I live every day. We just shot 18 holes at Trump International, West Palm Beach. Now we're out here selling on 7 figures and salty nerd tears. Usually when you're out here, it's all about fishing. Everybody knows when you're going fishing, it's important to have the right bait. So let me teach you all a lesson about how you bait someone. Garry, you translucent cut. You wanted my attention? Now you got it. Everybody knows why you want to fight me, Ian. I'm the biggest star in the division. It's big city, bright lights, and the most attention and eyes you're ever going to have on you when in fight. But everybody knows, Ian, you missed your chance. You had your chance in December to step on the same stage as me and have a microphone and say whatever you want to say to me. You were scared. You were scared of what I was going to say.
The seventh layer of hair. Never forget. That's what he was saying.
That was just a taste of what I could do to you, Ian. All I did was ask the 5,000 people in attendance how many people banged your wife. It's not my fault every single one of them rose their hand. If you're scared of that, Ian, if you're scared of words, what do you think it's going to be like when you step in a steel cage with chaos? You just went life and death with a guy that does this part-time and is a busboy Outback. Dude serves blooming onions for a living, and you went to a split decision with that guy?
So Neil would knock out Colby.
100%.
Big step up in competition, Junior. You're biting off more than you can chew. You know what? I'm a giving man. I'm a kind man. I like to give everyone a chance. So everybody knows, Ian, what's in it for you. But what's in it for me? Tell me, why do I got to go down in the rankings to fight some Casper the Ghost-looking Irish kid who has a gold-digging wife? Let me teach you the art of the deal, Ian. Let's come to a compromise. If you can meet these 3 stipulations, we got to fight. Stipulation number 1, you and that gold-digging whore got to turn your Instagram comments back on. And if you turn them off before the fight, you forfeit the fight.
I will say he should turn them on. It's definitely a bad look. Every post he does, it's just like comments are off.
Ian,
So I
Agreed.
definitely think that means it's getting to him.
we all know that you're not the boss and you don't wear the pants in the relationship. Layla, you got 60 seconds to convince me and the people why this fight needs to happen. So put your husband in the corner, get on your hands and knees, and beg. Now for stipulation number 3, my personal favorite.
Colby is
As you all
ruthless. I'm
might
not going to lie
notice,
with these.
something's been missing from my MyBookie promos lately. That's because I've been saving that spot for a special someone. Layla, you want to be a star? You want the spotlight? I got it for you, sweetie. You want your 15 seconds of fame, Layla? I'll give you your 15 seconds of fame right here for America's Pick of the Week. After I beat your husband, because that's a foregone conclusion, I will beat him. He's going to sit in the corner just like he does with all that cuck stuff you guys do, and he's going to watch while you get your 15 seconds of fame. Ball's in your court now, cuck boy. I'll have my lawyers draft up the papers. You got 24 hours to respond. We'll see if you're about that life.
Hey, man, I got to say, despite his fighting skills, he does know how to cut a promo, man. I felt like I was watching pro wrestling.
I think one of the funniest parts is like how good he is at promos, but his freaking mush mouth, man.
Yeah.
Like he's constantly screwing things up and it's very funny.
Yeah.
But like it's man, like he just can't talk. Like he can talk,
tell
but he
me
can't
what
like
I should be doing in
legitimately
life.
talk. Sorry,
Yeah.
he can't legitimately talk. But yeah, so he said you had 24 hours to respond. Well, Ian Garry has responded.
Not in 24 hours, but
not in 24 hours, but he did respond in timely enough, I guess. And he I guess had some stipulations of his own. So to recap, Colby wants his wife to do a promo for him, wants his wife to beg on her knees for him. Like
and
everything
he wants
is
him to respond within 24 hours.
Yeah, within 24 hours, which didn't happen. But everything basically surrounds around his wife. And like everyone's making fun of his wife and him as a cuck and da-da-da-da. But Ian Garry responded, and I actually thought this was a solid response. Before I play this, I will say I saw some social media just saying like that it was bad or that it was cringy. I actually thought this was one of Ian's best promos and best things that he said.
Yeah, normally I think he's pretty cringy on the mic, and he still kind of is here, but actually made some solid points and wasn't kind of making shit up like he was with the Magny stuff, where he's kind of blowing stuff out of proportion. With Colby, I think he actually has a lot of genuine ammunition that he can use against him, where that's why I think this is such a good call out for both of them, where they're both such divisive guys. And so it's like two of the most hated guys, honestly, in the UFC, where Colby is honestly probably has a lot more fans, but he definitely has a lot of people that really don't like him. And same goes for Ian Garry. So it's just been a super fun back and forth, and they have to make this fight, make it official.
Yeah, so this is Ian Garry here, and let's take a look
at
his
shaved head. Is so funny.
His stipulations.
Listen here, Colby Chaos Covington. You are in no position to tell me what I should be doing in life. You'll do as you're told. And down! You gave me 3 stipulations, all of which had nothing to do about fighting. But we're all talking about my wife.
Layla, get on your hands and knees and beg.
I don't know how you were raised, but women aren't property, and my wife definitely ain't no trophy.
Babe.
You should be focusing on me. I'm the one who's in that octagon with you. I'm the one who's going to punch a hole in your head. So stop swerving me and keep Layla's name out your mouth.
How many of you guys have fucked Ian Garry's wife?
You're not American.
I don't know why you put that part in.
You are.
Yeah, me neither.
Underperformer. You're the only person in UFC history to lose 3 world title fights, and you haven't got a single win against anybody in the top 15 right now.
It's true.
So, Colby, why should I fight you? I can think of one reason. I challenge you to an I quit match where one of us has to say,
this is what I like.
I quit. And whoever says the words I quit has to retire. Gloves off, center of the octagon, sayonara, my friend. I'm going to be the final chapter in your legacy of failure. I am going to rid the UFC of Colby Covington for good. And I'm going to make MMA great again.
Hey.
Yeah.
He made a lot of good points there, I must say, because Colby, for somebody who wants to put all those stipulations, I mean, you're 3-2 in your last 5. And your 2 wins are against Tyron Woodley, who went on to lose against Jake Paul in his next fight. And then Jorge Masvidal, who, I mean, we all can agree he's not in his prime during that time, and
he just was coming off of getting knocked out.
Yeah, and now he's doing boxing, so he's not even in the UFC anymore. So yeah, I definitely think that that was a great response from Ian Garry, and one of his best, like you said. Where normally he kind of comes off as more unlikable, and he definitely does still rub people the wrong way. But this might be the only way he can redeem his reputation, by going up against somebody with just as equally as bad of a reputation, where it's like he can actually make himself look kind of good when he's going up against someone like Colby, where if he's going up against a beloved fighter, he's basically asking for people to hate him, because he has succeeded a lot in the UFC, and people don't like it to see their older favorite fighters get beat by the new, more obnoxious guys coming up. So 100%. I definitely think that him and Colby is just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a lot of people who hate both, and that's from the UFC standpoint. That's selling.
Yeah.
Because you want to see Ian get knocked out, or you want to see Colby get knocked out. So we're going to buy this because we're going to see which one gets finished. But the sad part is Colby's fights in recent years have been pretty boring.
Yeah.
We just hope that it's not Colby holding him against the cage the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, his last entertaining fight was in 2021, that first or that last Kamaru Usman fight, and I'm like, that was like finished almost 2 years ago. So
yeah. So, but then the other thing here is the obvious elephant is the I quit stipulation.
Oh, please.
I mean, so okay, we'll break it down like this. I am a professional wrestling fan. Max, not so much, but
I watch Iron Claw.
Yeah, great movie. I've seen hundreds of I quit matches in professional wrestling. Obviously, that's where it's from. In wrestling, you have to literally make your opponent say I quit in order to win. Now, in UFC, it would be obviously you win the fight and then the opponent would leave forever.
Yeah.
Now, Ian Garry has said that he wants to be Colby Covington's retirement fight and finish him and put an end to this. Now, the question is would this work in terms of, if you're looking at it as a UFC as a business standpoint, would you actually put this stipulation on the fight? You know what I mean? Like, would you put it in the contract, build it as this, the loser's gone, like they're out of the UFC? I just don't think UFC would actually do that. They wouldn't actually put it, because Dana White has said it hundreds of times, like, we're not pro wrestling. I mean, we've even seen it in the last pay-per-view. Michael Venom Page came out to the Undertaker's theme song. Dana on the post said he hated it, and he never wants anyone to do that again. So,
even though they're now owned by the same company.
Yeah, they are. They're both under the TKO branding, but the thing is, like, Dana obviously is not a huge wrestling fan. He wants the real fights. He wants the fighting and keep it fighting. Now obviously there's always going to be an element of pro wrestling when you're having a press conference and people are cutting promos on each other and trash talking. It's going to be, but I guess he doesn't want that to bleed into the actual event, which I understand from his standpoint of, this is fighting. This is not wrestling. This is actual fighting. But man, I'll tell you, despite what you got, if the viewer, whatever, if you don't like wrestling, despite what you might have to say negative about it, the I quit stipulation makes this way more interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the pro wrestling element here. It makes it like so much more entertaining, because it's like, okay, we can watch Colby and Ian fight, and it might be good, it might be bad, whatever, but they fight and then it's cool and then it's over. But you added this extra element. It's like, okay, now there's actually some stipulations, because without this, it's whatever. Colby's going down in the rankings, and it's not going to do anything for him if he wins.
Yeah.
Ian's going up, and it might help him a little bit, but he's also beating a guy who's keeps getting beat. So it's not really helping him that much. But with the I quit stakes in it, now we're talking. Now there's actually some stakes here that one of those guys, and like, let's just say Ian Garry were to lose. This guy's undefeated. He's just starting in the UFC, really. And you're going to kick a prospect out of the company because he lost one fight?
Yeah, especially against someone like Colby, who he hasn't had the most success lately, but he is still undeniably one of the best welterweights in the world. So I think that, like you said, I don't think the UFC will officially market it that way, but I do hope that that kind of carries in outside of the official promo where they're both still talking about it. They're both still bringing it up at the press conferences where I don't think they'll officially promote it, but I don't even think they'll need to. I think social media will do all that work for them with just the people talking about the fight and the fact that this is even being brought up, where it's kind of like those unofficial bets people like to make before fights.
And that's the thing though that I wonder. Okay, UFC probably will not like sanction this and actually make it an equity, but do they keep a gentleman's agreement? At the loser quits. Let's say this goes. Let's say they say, okay, this fight's happening between Ian and Colby. We're gonna make this an I Quit match, whatever. Do you actually think the loser would keep his word?
Hell no. Knowing how petty both these guys are, they're definitely not keeping their word.
No way. Yeah, I agree. But I do think, though, this is, I mean, I guess it's related because of the fight, but I do think there is a possibility, just even without the I Quit stuff, that if Colby were to lose, he would be done. There is a possibility that would happen even without the stipulation.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, the UFC might keep him around just because he's a big name, and they've shown that they do not mind putting their big names against prospects for as long as they're willing to step in there so they can just keep building their prospects up. We've seen it with Tony. We've seen it with countless guys. So I do think that he'd probably stay around, but I do think if he loses, I definitely think that his chance of getting another title shot is very much out the window, where he's already owned 3 in title shots. And
I'm going to be honest, I think if it were me, his chances are already gone.
Yeah, I know. I would agree, but I know that the UFC, he must be bringing him some type of numbers, because getting that title shot off the win against Jorge Masvidal is a little bit crazy, because that was not the best fight by anyone's standards, and especially with how much bad blood was in it. That was a super disappointing performance, but he still got the title shot after that. So I do think that if he wins, he definitely could get another title shot, because Ian Garry is one of the most talked about guys in the UFC. And if he actually was able to beat him, I think that he would have all the momentum in the world, and his fans would eat that up, bro. Just like they eat him up when he loses. They'll be like, oh, he should have won against Usman, even though he got dropped twice. Oh, he didn't. That was a bad stoppage in the first one.
Broke his jaw.
Yeah. So I'm like, no matter what happens, Colby fans will still be praising him. So I think that if he was actually able to win, I think it just really put him right back in the title conversation.
I mean, there was people even saying he won that Leon fight, and Leon decimated him the whole time. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Exactly. His fans
delusional.
Exactly. Delusional to the point where they defend him no matter what. So I think that on the flip side, that's really beneficial for Ian Garry, where he can really shut them up for good, hopefully.
Finish him.
Yeah, put on a dominant performance. Yeah, he has to dominate him. He cannot put on a boring performance where he kind of makes it look easy but doesn't really do much damage, where people will I don't think that'll gain him many fans. But if he actually goes in there willing to hurt Colby and really put himself in risk, I feel like then he can really earn himself some fans. But on the flip side, there's also, like I said, Colby could also ragdoll him. We haven't really seen him tested too much, but I do honestly think that at this point, I definitely favor Ian Garry over Colby at this stage of the career.
I also will note, though, in favor of Ian, that I thought that Colby would. I picked Leon to win that fight, but I did think that Colby would have more success than he did in the wrestling, and he did not.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe bodes well for Ian. I know he's been down there.
I agree.
He's been over there in Brazil or whatever, working on
with jiu-jitsu
and stuff. And like those guys can defend a takedown. So if they're really, really working for it, there's a possibility that Colby doesn't even get Ian down.
I agree 100%. I think that if this fight happens, it's a bad fight for Colby. I think that Ian would be able to keep him in range and piece him up the entire time, if I'm being honest. I think that maybe if it was a 5-rounder, then maybe Colby would have a better chance. So I do think that it depends on if this is a 5-rounder or a 3-rounder. Really, it would really favor Colby if it was a 5-rounder. But if it's a 3-rounder, I definitely would favor Ian Garry to just get it done on points, honestly. But hopefully he'd be willing to put himself in more risk that he has in his previous fights and make it an entertaining fight, because he does have that style where he more just picks and chooses when he punches, which is a smart style. I still find it pretty entertaining, but for most people, it's not going to really get him a lot of fans.
Yeah, and I was just about to say I would assume this will be a 3-round fight, but then I kind of think about it. Poirier and Benoit was just a 5-round fight for no reason.
Exactly.
So there's a possibility it could be 5-round. They're doing that more with non-title,
and I think they should.
Fights. I agree. If it's co-main event,
the contenders. Prepare the contenders for the 5-rounders, because so often we see guys in their first main event totally gas out and just get destroyed because they're just used to 3 rounds, and that's obviously on them. But I think if they had more fights to prepare for that,
but they're also not training for a 5-round too. So
yeah, exactly.
The thing that I think is, regardless of championship fight or not, I think every pay-per-view co-main should be 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's not a bad
pay-per-view co-main should be 5 rounds. Main event and co-main 5 rounds, because you don't want to have, like, let's just say, for instance, Colby and Ian. It's not going to happen, but let's say they open the show. I think they wouldn't have a 5-round open the show.
Yeah.
But so you don't want to put a 5-round first, but last and second to last, co-main and main should both be 5 rounds, regardless of championship fight or not, because I mean, there's always a potential. It's fighting. It's not, a lot of the times this probably won't even last 5 rounds. I mean, we just saw what happened to Poirier and Benoit. It went 2. It didn't even need 3. So, like, I just think it brings out more peak performances when you're training for 5, right? So
yeah, I agree.
Co-main should be good, but obviously this fight isn't official. There's nothing ever official about this at all as of right now.
It should be, though.
But if it becomes official, if it does happen, who takes it? What's your prediction?
I mean, like I said, I think that I'm favoring Ian Garry all the way. I think that if it is 5 rounds, I would definitely be more skeptical, but I think he's got the skills to beat him. And I think that Colby is on the decline for sure. So I think that this is the perfect time for Ian Garry to fight him, where he's still considered one of the best in the world, but he's probably more on his way out. So I'm going Ian Garry. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Ian Garry, but I will say that I think this fight is boring. Yeah. And I do think it reminisces more of Ian Garry and Jeff Neal, which a lot of people thought was boring. But I think it's even more boring than that, because I don't think Colby wouldn't even beat Jeff Neal, in my opinion. So I think that it would be Ian on the back foot, kind of like getting away, trying to keep his distance because of the wrestling.
Yeah.
And then obviously Colby's not going to barge in with strikes because he's not going to get counter shot. He doesn't want to get counter shot.
Yeah.
So I think it would be pretty freaking boring. But I do think Ian would
that's
win.
Worst case scenario for both of them, where I feel like they'll both lose fans off. If it's boring, they'll both probably just become even more unlikable. But,
especially Ian.
Yeah.
Ian 100%. Coming off of a boring fight with Jeff and then going into a boring fight with Colby would be like, all right, this guy's
just a boring fighter. Yeah. So I definitely think that there's risk and reward in this fight, where if Ian Garry really is able to put a staple on this, then he could really make himself less hated. But yeah, if it's boring, then man, he's really making it hard for people to root for him.
Yeah, I think Ian would definitely have to knock him out, which is not an easy task.
At least whoop him, like Marlon Chito Vera and Sean O'Malley type thing, where it was almost finished.
Yeah, agreed. But as of now, like I said,
we'll find out.
Actually official, but we will find out, and we definitely will see if they keep some sort of gentleman's agreement, if it'll be an I quit fight. Because
man, I'd love to see one of them out. I mean, I like Ian Garry a lot more, but I mean, I think it'd be funny if they both. It
would definitely be
if
funny.
They kept their word,
and it would be like I said, way more stakes to this because this is a fight where no one's really gaining much. Really.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it has its benefits for both guys, but yeah, it would be better with the I quit. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that the I quit stipulation would be so funny.
Yeah, because I don't know if that's happened in the UFC.
No, and you never know with UFC too, because Dana always would say that he'd never do gimmick type fights, and now we have a BMF title. It's being defended on their biggest show.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, that's a good point, man.
So you never freaking know with these things, but if it does happen, man, hopefully they keep their word. I'm not advocating for someone to lose their job, but strictly for the entertainment value.
Yeah.
We need this to be an I Quit fight because that would be amazing. So shout out to Ian Garry bringing up that idea because I thought that was hilarious.
For real, man.
But yeah, that's it for us. Let us know in the comments, okay, if you think they'd actually do this as an I Quit match and who would win. Who would win this? Who's leaving the UFC? Who's getting kicked out? Hopefully it happens. We'll see. Maybe this summer. I think UFC 203, let's say, because they're starting to do the rollout for 201, 202, or sorry, 301 and 302. So 303 possibly, or just popped in my head, if they do 305 in Miami, Colby in Miami,
the King of Miami
versus Ian. I Quit. Let's do it.
Yeah, run it up.
But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I said, comment below who wins, who leaves, and we'll see you next time on the Combat and Canvas YouTube channel.